Hello, and welcome back to Speak English Daily.
Hi, everyone. We are very happy to see you here today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Daily. We are so happy you decided to spend some time with us today. If you enjoy listening to real conversations that help you improve your English naturally, don't forget to subscribe and join our growing community. Every episode is designed to help you become more confident while enjoying interesting discussions about everyday life. Today, we're talking about something everyone experiences, whether we notice it or not: generational differences. It sounds like a big topic, but it's really about the small things we do every day and how those things change over time.
I like this topic because it isn't about saying one generation is better than another. It's about noticing different habits and asking why they exist. Every generation grows up in a different world, so it makes sense that people develop different routines and lifestyles. I think that's what makes conversations like this interesting. We can compare experiences without judging anyone, and we might even discover that we have more in common than we expected.
That's true. When people hear the word generation, they sometimes imagine a history class, but it's much simpler than that. A generation is just a group of people who grow up during the same period. They often experience similar technology, music, fashion, schools, and ways of communicating. Those shared experiences slowly shape their habits, opinions, and daily routines.
I've noticed that even simple activities can reveal someone's generation. Think about taking photos. My parents usually take a few pictures during a family gathering and then put the phone away. My younger cousin takes dozens of photos, records short videos, edits them, and shares them before the meal is finished. Neither way is wrong. They're simply different habits that reflect different lifestyles.
That's such a relatable example. In my experience, another funny difference appears when people need directions. Some older relatives still enjoy using a paper map or asking someone for help. Most younger people reach for their phones without thinking twice. Technology has made life more convenient, but it has also changed the way we solve everyday problems.
It depends on the situation, doesn't it? Sometimes I enjoy using modern technology because it saves time. Other times I admire older habits because they encourage people to slow down and pay attention. My grandfather always remembered street names without any digital help. I still wonder how he managed to do that.
Here's something that surprises people about me. Although I enjoy new technology, I sometimes sound much older than my age. I like writing a shopping list on paper before going to the supermarket. My friends laugh because they keep everything on their phones, but I enjoy crossing each item off with a pen. It feels satisfying in a way that a screen doesn't.
You're not alone. I sometimes surprise people too. I love trying new apps, but every Sunday I prefer sitting with a printed newspaper and a cup of coffee. My friends tell me I could read everything online, and they're probably right, yet that quiet routine helps me relax and disconnect from constant notifications.
That's why conversations about generations are so interesting. We often imagine clear differences between young people and old people, but real life isn't that simple. Many of us combine traditions from the past with modern habits. We borrow ideas from our parents, our grandparents, our friends, and even younger family members.
During this episode, we'll compare those everyday moments, share personal stories, and learn useful English you can use in your own conversations. We hope you'll think about your own routines while listening. You may discover that some of your habits belong to another generation, and that's perfectly normal. Every different perspective adds something valuable to the conversation.
Speaking of routines, I think mornings are one of the easiest ways to see how life has changed from one generation to another. The first few minutes after we wake up can tell us a lot about the world we live in. When I was a child, my mornings followed almost the same schedule every weekday. My parents would wake up early, open the curtains to let in the sunlight, and remind everyone that breakfast would be ready soon. There was no checking messages before getting out of bed because there weren't any waiting for us.
My mornings were very similar. We used to have a small alarm clock sitting on a table beside the bed. It made a loud ringing sound that nobody enjoyed, but it always did its job. These days, my phone wakes me up with gentle music, tells me about the weather, and even reminds me about meetings. One device has replaced several things people once needed separately.
That's a good point. I also remember that my parents would never let us leave the house without eating breakfast. It didn't have to be a big meal, but everyone sat together for a few minutes. Those conversations were usually simple. We talked about school, work, or what we planned to do later in the day. Looking back, those moments helped our family stay connected, even if we were all busy.
Breakfast felt different in my house, too. My father would read the newspaper while drinking his tea, and my mother would prepare sandwiches for everyone. My sister and I would sometimes complain because we wanted to sleep a little longer, but our parents believed that beginning the day calmly was important. They had a routine, and they rarely changed it.
I think many families today still enjoy breakfast together, but our schedules are often less predictable. Some people leave home very early for work, while others work from home. Students may have different starting times, and many people grab something quick because they're rushing to catch a bus or train. Convenience has become more important than sitting down for 20 minutes.
I agree. Even getting ready has changed. When I was younger, I would choose my clothes the night before because my mother said it saved time in the morning. Now, I sometimes decide at the last minute while checking my calendar on my phone. It sounds efficient, but it can also make the morning feel more stressful.
Walking to school is another memory that reminds me of those days. I used to meet my friends a few streets away from my house, and we walked together every morning. The journey became part of our friendship. We laughed, talked about homework, and sometimes stopped to watch a dog or a cat along the way. We weren't in such a hurry.
I can relate to that. I would walk with my older brother, and he always reminded me to be on time because he disliked arriving late. During those walks, he would tell me stories about his teachers or give me advice before classes started. Those conversations stayed with me much longer than I realized.
Parents also had different morning habits. My mother would prepare everything before anyone woke up. She packed lunches, checked that we had our school bags, and still found time to remind us to wear a jacket if the weather looked cold. I didn't appreciate how organized she was until I became an adult.
My father had a habit that still makes me smile. Before leaving for work, he would always check the doors, the windows, and even the lights. Every single morning followed the same pattern. At the time, I thought it was unnecessary, but now I sometimes catch myself doing the very same thing. Maybe some habits quietly travel from one generation to the next.
I also think mornings feel faster today because our minds become busy before we even leave the house. Many people wake up and immediately read emails, news headlines, or social media updates. Before breakfast is finished, they've already filled their heads with information. That wasn't part of daily life when many of our parents were young.
That's an interesting difference. Life has become more connected, but that connection also creates pressure to respond quickly and keep moving. We'd love to hear about your experience too. How is your morning routine different from your parents' or grandparents'? Tell us in the comments. Your stories might be very different from ours, and that's what makes conversations like this so enjoyable.
Listening to those childhood memories naturally brings us to another big change in everyday life: technology. It has quietly become part of almost everything we do. We don't always notice it because these tools have become so familiar, but if someone from 30 years ago visited us today, they would probably be amazed by how often we interact with a screen before lunchtime. Technology has changed the way we communicate, travel, shop, work, and even relax after a long day.
That's true, and one of the clearest examples is how we stay in touch with people. When I was younger, calling someone felt more special. If you wanted to talk to a friend, you usually picked up the phone and had a real conversation. Today, many people send a quick text instead. Texting is convenient because you can answer whenever you have time, but I sometimes miss hearing someone's voice. A 5-minute conversation can express much more than 20 short messages.
I understand what you mean. At the same time, texting has made communication much easier in many situations. If I'm in a meeting or on a train, I can reply without interrupting anyone. Families can also stay connected throughout the day. My parents have learned how to use messaging apps, and now we exchange short updates almost every evening. We probably communicate more often than we did years ago because technology has made it so simple.
Shopping is another example. My parents enjoyed visiting different stores and comparing products in person. It was almost a weekend activity. Now I can order groceries, books, or even birthday gifts without leaving my house. The package often arrives the next day. That level of convenience would have sounded unbelievable when I was a child.
It certainly saves time. I've been using online shopping more often because my work schedule can become quite busy. Instead of spending 2 hours visiting several shops, I can compare prices in a few minutes. Of course, I still enjoy walking through bookstores or local markets, but technology gives us more choices. We can decide what works best for us on a particular day.
Getting around has changed too. I remember watching my father unfold a large paper map before a family trip. It covered almost the entire front seat of the car, and everyone tried to help him find the right road. Sometimes we made a wrong turn, laughed about it, and eventually reached our destination. Now, a GPS tells us where to go almost instantly.
That's one change I truly appreciate. GPS has helped me discover new places without worrying about finding my way home. Because navigation has become more accurate, traveling feels less stressful, especially in cities I've never visited before. It allows me to focus on enjoying the journey instead of worrying about every street corner.
Entertainment has changed just as much. We used to check television schedules to see when our favorite programs would begin. If we missed an episode, we simply had to wait. Now, streaming services have given us access to thousands of shows whenever we want to watch them. We've become used to choosing our own schedule instead of following someone else's.
The same thing has happened with banking. I still remember standing in line with my parents while they paid bills or withdrew money. Now I can transfer money, check my account, and pay for purchases using a single device. Those tasks have become much more efficient, leaving extra time for other responsibilities.
Speaking of devices, let me tell you about something that happened a few months ago. I accidentally left my phone at home before going to work. I didn't realize it until I arrived at the office. At first, I felt uncomfortable because I had depended on that little device for directions, messages, reminders, and even my shopping list. Throughout the day, I kept reaching into my pocket, forgetting the phone wasn't there. By the afternoon, something surprising happened. I felt calmer. I paid more attention during conversations, looked around instead of at a screen, and noticed details I normally ignored.
That's such an interesting experience. Maybe that's why people have been talking more about screen time lately. Technology has improved our lives in many ways, but we've also become deeply connected to it. I don't think technology itself is the problem. The real question is how we choose to use it.
I agree with that, although I think we've become a little too dependent. Technology has made life easier, but sometimes we forget how to do simple things without it. Finding a balance may be one of the most important skills our generation can learn.
Hearing your story about leaving your phone behind reminds me that technology isn't the only thing that has changed. Family life has changed too, especially when we think about responsibilities and expectations. Every generation seems to have a different idea of what children should do at home, how much freedom they should have, and what success looks like. In my family, everyone was expected to contribute in some way, even when we were very young.
That sounds familiar. My parents believed that responsibility wasn't something you learned overnight. They thought it developed little by little through everyday habits. Small tasks such as making your bed, helping with dinner, or keeping your room tidy weren't seen as punishment. They were simply part of being a member of the family.
My parents had a similar attitude. I wasn't expected to do every household chore, but I had my own responsibilities. I had to keep my room clean, help set the table before dinner, and wash the dishes on certain evenings. Sometimes I complained because my friends seemed to have fewer chores, but my mother would always say that learning these habits would help me become more independent one day. Looking back, I think she was right.
Mine often said something similar. My father believed that discipline started with simple routines. If you could take care of small responsibilities, you would be more prepared for bigger ones later in life. At the time, I didn't enjoy hearing those words, but as an adult, I've realized that they contained valuable advice.
Respecting parents was also expressed a little differently. When I was growing up, it meant listening carefully, speaking politely, and helping when someone asked. It didn't mean that we couldn't have different opinions, but we were expected to explain ourselves respectfully. Those conversations taught me that good communication is just as important as agreeing with someone.
I like that idea because respect should work both ways. Parents guide their children, but they should also listen to them. Families today often encourage children to share their thoughts more openly than previous generations did. That can create stronger relationships when everyone feels comfortable expressing their opinions.
Another difference I've noticed is how people think about independence. Many young adults want to make their own decisions earlier than their parents did. They choose different careers, move to new cities, or explore opportunities that weren't as common before. Families may worry at first, but they often become supportive once they understand those goals.
Career expectations have certainly changed. Many people from older generations believed that finding one stable job and staying there for many years showed commitment and loyalty. Today, people are more willing to change careers if they discover a better opportunity or want a healthier work-life balance. Neither approach is automatically better because every person has different priorities.
I think balance has become an important word. People still want to work hard, but they also want time for family, hobbies, health, and rest. We have learned that success isn't measured only by promotions or long working hours. A fulfilling life usually includes meaningful relationships as well.
I agree. Older generations have taught us the value of dedication, patience, and commitment, while younger generations remind us that personal well-being matters too. Perhaps the best approach is to combine those ideas. We should work responsibly, support the people around us, and remember that a successful career becomes even more rewarding when it leaves room for a happy and balanced life.
After talking about family, careers, and responsibilities, I keep thinking about one simple idea. Instead of deciding which generation had the better way of living, maybe we should ask what we can learn from each other. Every generation has faced different challenges, so every generation has developed valuable skills. If we only focus on our differences, we miss the chance to grow.
I couldn't agree more. When I think about my grandparents, the first word that comes to mind is patience. They never seemed to rush through everything. If something broke, they didn't immediately replace it. They tried to repair it first. Whether it was a chair, a bicycle, or even a small kitchen appliance, they believed almost everything deserved a second chance. That practical mindset taught them to appreciate what they already had instead of constantly looking for something new.
That's something I've started to admire too. My grandmother could repair clothes with such care that they looked almost new again. As a child, I wondered why she spent so much time doing that. Now, I understand that it wasn't only about saving money, it was about respecting the effort that went into making something. If more people adopted that habit today, we might waste less and appreciate our belongings more.
Saving money is another lesson many older generations have passed down. My parents always planned before making a big purchase. They asked themselves if they really needed something or whether they simply wanted it for a short time. I wasn't very interested in those conversations when I was younger, but they've become more meaningful as I've grown older. If I ignored those lessons completely, I would probably spend far more than I should.
I feel the same way. At the same time, younger generations have introduced ideas that deserve equal respect. They're often more comfortable with technology, and they adapt quickly when new tools appear. My younger cousin showed me several useful apps that help me organize my work more efficiently. Before that, I was doing everything by hand. Thanks to her, I've saved hours every week.
That's happened to me too. I used to avoid learning new software because it looked complicated. Then a colleague who was much younger patiently explained everything. After a few days, I wondered why I had resisted it for so long. That experience reminded me that learning doesn't stop after school. Every generation has something valuable to teach, if we're willing to listen.
Another positive change is the way people speak about mental health. Years ago, many families found these conversations uncomfortable. Today, more people encourage one another to ask for help, take breaks, and care for their emotional well-being. That doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing that healthy people usually make better friends, family members, and coworkers.
I think both ideas can exist together. We can admire the commitment and discipline of older generations while also accepting that rest is important. Those values don't compete with each other, they support each other. A person who works hard should also know when it's time to recharge.
The more we talk, the more I realize I've changed because of people from different age groups. Older relatives have given me wisdom through their experience, while younger friends have encouraged me to stay curious and flexible. If I had only listened to people my own age, I would have missed many valuable lessons.
I feel the same. Every meaningful conversation has shaped my perspective a little. That's why I believe respect begins with curiosity. Instead of saying, your way is outdated or your generation doesn't understand, we could simply ask questions. We might discover that the answer makes perfect sense once we understand the person's experience.
That idea leads naturally to one final thought. Have you noticed that almost every generation believes life was somehow better when they were growing up? Older people often remember quieter neighborhoods, stronger communities, or simpler routines. Younger people celebrate new opportunities, greater independence, and the convenience of modern technology. I think both groups are remembering the parts of life that meant the most to them.
That's probably true because memories are powerful. We don't always remember every inconvenience from the past. Instead, we remember family dinners, close friendships, favorite teachers, or exciting adventures. Every generation builds emotional connections to the world they grew up in, so it's understandable that they speak about it with affection.
The interesting thing is that daily routines will keep changing. Children growing up today may one day tell their grandchildren about voice assistants, smartphones, and streaming services with the same sense of nostalgia that previous generations talk about paper maps or handwritten letters. The future will introduce new technology that we can't even imagine yet.
And perhaps those future generations will smile at some of our habits. They may wonder why we spent so much time looking at our phones, or why we thought certain technology was so advanced. That's a funny thought, because it reminds us that change never really stops. Every generation becomes part of history sooner than it expects.
Maybe that's why it's important to stay open-minded. We don't have to give up our traditions to welcome new ideas. We can appreciate the responsibility, commitment, and practical wisdom we've inherited while adapting to new ways of learning, communicating, and solving problems. Balance is often found somewhere in the middle.
I couldn't have said it better. Today's conversation isn't about choosing winners or losers, it's about recognizing that every generation has shaped the world in its own way. Our routines may change, our technology will continue to evolve, and our perspectives will grow with new experiences. But kindness, curiosity, and respect never go out of style. Thank you for spending this time with us. Before we finish, we'd love to leave you with one question to think about. What's one habit from an older generation you admire, and what's one modern habit you couldn't live without? We look forward to reading your answers and continuing the conversation with you in our next episode.